Welcome to today's presentation on Data So Scary It Kills. My name is Katie Lashy and I'm the Director of Sales Ops here at Updox. I've been with the company for about 8 or 9 years in sales, marketing, kind of capacities. I've also spent a ton of time on the phone with our end users. I've also done some training with users. So it's given me great perspective into some of the pains that you all are going through on a day-to-day basis. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Then we're also going to talk about the implications of that pain. So where does the time that you spend doing those things, not only is it time intensive and not necessarily the most efficient way within the practices, but it also can be dangerous from a data perspective and the opportunity for error. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. You've probably noticed that the phone lines have been muted as we're recording today's presentation, and we'll be sending that recording around to all registrants after the event so you can share it with your team. We are going to take questions at the end as well. So if you go to the question section on your GoToWebinar panel, we'll try to get through as many as we can in our 30 minutes. I appreciate you spending your lunch hour with me if you're on the East Coast, or an early lunch if you're Central Time. And again, I look forward to taking you through everything today. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So we had talked about statistics that sting. So some of the administrative processes that you go through on a day-to-day basis are certainly painful from a workflow perspective, but they're also pretty dangerous when it comes to the implications and the room for error. So data so scary it kills. The reason that we had kind of led with that message is because there was an article recently that estimated that medical errors are actually the third leading cause of death in the United States, and they're responsible for 250,000 deaths annually, which is probably a large number. It seems like a large number to you, but when you think about how much of your day you spend on paperwork, I'm sure you can appreciate how much hinges on that paperwork being correct. There's also a statistic out there that 86% of all healthcare mistakes are administrative. The people that we help on a day-to-day basis are passionate about patient care and spending time with patients and improving their health and outcomes. But the errors that are occurring are not based on that care, but around the forms and the paperwork and the processes that it takes to support that care outside of the practice. So that statistic, again, pretty easy to understand that the mistakes that are made are not on the care given, but the administrative processes that surround that. 63% of all physicians have mentioned the frustration of receiving the wrong paperwork or insufficient information from referring or referred practices. So if you've ever been on the referring end of that ordeal. 80% of all medical errors result in the transition of care. And finally, 3 out of 10 tests are reordered because of mishandled documents and testing. So again, not just the pain in the day-to-day way that you operate, but the implication of what happens when that paperwork doesn't go perfectly as planned. And there's my sources for you here, and I'll send that around. They're absolutely super interesting articles. So how does Updox help Practice Fusion customers overcome some of these problems? Some of you might not be super familiar with Updox. We have been partnered with Practice Fusion for a couple of years now. Just to give you a little bit of background about where we're coming from, who we are, what we're all about. We are a communications platform built by physicians for physicians. So about 8 or 9, actually I think it's 9 or 10 years ago, Dr. Andy Barbash was frustrated that he didn't have a quick and easy way to communicate with the people within his care network. So the rest of the world moved on to email and super simple workflows, convenient communication. But with HIPAA, even though you all went to electronic health records, you didn't have the ability to use email because that you couldn't send patient health information through that email. It wouldn't be secure. So he was frustrated that the rest of the world was operating at this new efficiency thanks to technology, whereas providers are still kind of struggling with their fax machine and trying to bring that paper-based scanning process into their electronic medical records. So we had the idea for Updox, and from there we've gone from an integrated faxing solution, which is a large part how we're helping Practice Fusion today. We've also helped practices satisfy meaningful use requirements for stage 1, stage 2, and we're looking into stage 3 macro MIPS as well. Through direct secure email, we offer patient portals to some of our partners, not Practice Fusion specifically. But we've also been able to help them with appointment reminders and patient notification. So Through that network, we've been able to help more than 40,000 providers, 250,000 users growing every day. We have over 100 different EMR integrations, and through those integrations, we're helping them connect to 60 million patients, which accounts for 18% of the US population. So we've grown quickly, and we've found a lot of great success partnering with these independent physicians and helping simplify the workflows at their practice. And what we're trying to be for them is a single source for both patient and provider communication with the electronic fax, direct secure email, and then the reminders and patient notifications kind of tied to the patient there. An important consideration for any business, but independent physicians as well. I know that you have a million different technology options thrown at you on a day-to-day basis. You could partner with a reminders company, you could partner with a fax company, you could partner with a messaging company. What we try to do is consolidate a few different needs into one central inbox and one partnership so that you have one point of contact for a few different workflow enhancements. You have one pricing point, so we're cheaper because you're not paying 4 different companies to help you in these different ways. And by doing that, we help you kind of level the playing field so that you can operate at maximized efficiency at your practice. And the way that we do that is by helping cover down on both patient engagement and practice optimization. We can help you do more with less, as most of the practices we speak with have 5 or fewer employees. From a patient engagement perspective, the types of solutions that we would help you with would be appointment reminders, patient notifications. We can help you with relationship development and care management. And then on the practice optimization side, we help with digital referral process, care coordination, lab and prescription coordination. Because we are a web-based application, we also are used quite often for inter-office communication because you can collaborate with people within the practice or across different locations using Updox securely. That web-based access is also great for remote clinic access. So you've already gone with Practice Fusion, which is a web-based EMR. You also have a web-based fax solution that integrates really well with your Practice Fusion now. So the remote clinic access is helpful too. And again, we are built by doctors for doctors, so HIPAA compliance is always front of mind for us as well. The way that we consolidate all of these different types of communications is in what we call the universal inbox. So it's a web-based application. You can get to it anywhere with an internet connection, and we designed it to look just like an email inbox to keep it as intuitive as possible. So everyone's used to sending and receiving emails. You'll notice some of the familiar folders there on the left. You have the inbox, the sent box, archive, trash. We color code the different messages coming in, so you could see documents that you drag from your desktop into Updox. You could see incoming faxes, outgoing faxes, messages between people in the practice. And we've color-coded and labeled them all, so it's really easy for you to pick and choose what you want to look at any given time, and also work together using something that we call the tags. So the little purple and orange and blue tags that you're seeing here on the screen, you're able to customize those with a label for urgency or type of message or ownership or status, so that if you're 3 people inside of the fax inbox kind of managing the documents, you can work together to identify what a document is and what needs to be done with it next. So all of these different things that we've tried to think through when we think about how you're managing paper today. What our electronic fax and document management solution lets you do that's quite a bit different than fax servers out there. If you have a fax server that's non-integrated, we make it easy for you to review, split, and combine pages. So oftentimes we'll talk to practices that have gone with a fax server, but if they get a fax from a lab that has 2 patients involved, they end up bringing it back to paper and then scanning it in separately because it's not easy to split them up. If they require an edit or a signature on that document, again, you bring it to paper because a fax server doesn't often support that behavior. Updox makes it easy to review, split, and combine pages, and we give you the ability to electronically edit and even sign documents, which I'll show you here in a sec. We also give you the ability to drag and drop documents from your desktop into Updox. And then we help you do 2 things at once. So a common workflow is that you fax something out and then you scan it into the chart with the transmission report to show that it went out. With Updox, you can actually send out as a fax and file to the chart at the same time. And not only will you have that audit trail in Updox, but the audit trail follows it to the chart as well. So helping you do 2 things at once wherever we can. Again, we're web-based, so there's no hardware, software, or IT support required, and 100% HIPAA compliant would be some of the differentiators against some of the other solutions out there. And then the big thing as well is our integration with Practice Fusion. We are the exclusive integrated partner for Practice Fusion when it comes to faxing, and I'll show you exactly what that means for your workflow. But from a step-by-step process, basically you log into Updox, break it apart if you need to, edit or sign it if you need to, and then send it to the patient's chart out as a fax or both at the same time. And to step through that a bit slower, here's an expanded view of the documents as they're coming in. So here's a 3-page fax, a 3-page fax, and a 9-page fax, I believe. Now, if I wanted to, I could mouse over the thumbnail previews to kind of see what it is and determine my next steps. I can also, here, I'll zoom in a bit for you here. I can see, so this is a 3-page lab with a cover sheet. I could send the whole thing to the chart or out as a fax if I wanted to, but I don't really want to bring that cover sheet with me. So what I'm going to do, I can actually check the individual pages within the fax and just grab what I need to manage that a few pages at a time. If I need to edit or sign, I could just click one of those thumbnail previews, and we try to recreate anything that you might do on paper. So text for notes and numerical values, you have a freehand drawing tool, an eraser, a highlighter, a one-click signature, a time and date stamp, a checkbox for forms, and then the aha moment for providers. You have a one-click signature available for you. So you could sign off on documents on the go with a signature. From here, this is where our integration with Practice Fusion really comes into play. And they were very specific when we were building out our partnership that our sending screen had to mimic the workflow that you're all used to inside of Practice Fusion. So when you go to upload a document and it asks you for a title, a type, and a provider, we mimicked that exact same workflow so that there's no new fields for you all to have to worry about. You can title the document, choose your type, assign it to a provider, so you can actually create a task while filing, which providers really love because that means they don't actually need to go into Updox if they don't want to. They can just continue reviewing documents inside of the chart like they're used to doing. Or if we have some practices where the doctor is actually doing some of the filing themselves, you could actually sign off on the document while you're filing it. That gives you the ability to skip the step of hopping into the chart and then signing off on it later. So just some workflows that our practices really appreciate from our sending screen. One other kind of neat thing about our sending screen, if you're faxing and filing tons of documents every single day, you might forget the date of the lab draw on the paperwork you're filing, or the date of birth for a patient, or the fax number that you're trying to send to. We bring those little thumbnail previews into the sending screen with you so that it's easy for you to remind yourself of whatever data you're trying to capture there. You don't have to back off and start over to get that kind of information. The other thing that I mentioned we could do is fax out at the same time. So the same sending button that lets you file to the chart lets you fax out, because you can do both at the same time, or either as an independent action, whatever the case may be. But to fax out as well, you would just type in the name of the contact or the fax number that you're sending to, the title of the document. You can select a cover sheet. You have out of the box one cover sheet with your practice name, fax number, name and number of the place you're faxing to, but you have the opportunity to build multiple cover sheets. So if you have different departments, different types of cover sheets you'd like, different locations, you can have a library of that as well. And then you can also edit individual cover sheets as they're going out. So if you had a specific note that you needed to include, you could go ahead and type that right onto the cover sheet before you send it. Another great thing about our faxing compared to some of the other fax solutions out there is if it's hard to find a fax that you'd sent to resend it, so you end up just doing the work over again. So this is exactly what happens in a paper-based process, is that you would have to re-pull the documents and fax it back out. But even a lot of fax server solutions out there don't make it easy for you to find something you sent. If a fax fails, we do proactively notify you with a fax failed notification at the top of your inbox. We'll let you know when it failed, why it failed. We have your original attachment, so it's really easy for you to send it again. But if it does go through and that pesky practice that you faxed with asks you to resend it 3 days later, rather than redoing all of that work, you can hop into the sent box in Updox, grab the fax that you sent, and send it again. So saving you some of the rework that I know that practices do on a day-to-day basis. Now from a finance perspective, when we ask practices how much they fax, the universal answer is a lot, and we hear it every single time we ask on the phone. But then we work with them to try and quantify that. So how much are you paying for a fax line in a month? Maybe $20, $30. How much is a case of paper? Maybe $50. How much for a toner cartridge? A Brother standard toner cartridge is $80. So all of these costs, and then you have the concept of time. So if it takes you 4 minutes to manage every fax, whereas an integrated solution could give you 2 minutes back, and you're faxing all day long every day, the time really adds up too. So what Updox can offer you is for every 5,000 fax pages, you're spending somewhere near $150, $155 in supplies and 55 staff hours. What we can help you do is minimize the costs associated with that and cut the time in half, which means going digital with Updox can save your practice as much as $7,000 on an annual basis, in addition to just making your work life a little bit more pleasant, a little bit more predictable, less hardware frustration on the day-to-day. If you did want to get started with Updox, another great value of our solution is that we have a 15-day free trial that you're welcome to see if it's a fit for your practice. Even after that, we're a month-to-month service, which is awesome because that means we need to keep you just as happy with us on your 36th month as we do on your first month, because we're earning your customership month over month. There's no hardware. We offer free training and technical support. And again, it's super simple to get up and get started. The way that we have integrated with Practice Fusion means when you register with Updox, you click one button after registration and your accounts are already tied together so that you can start sending into the chart and really saving time right off the bat. But again, we do have free training offered, both web-based training on demand. We have recorded trainings, and then we have documentation too. So everything you would need to get off on the right foot with us. We also have a special pricing promotion going on right now for Halloween. It seems to be a Halloween-themed event that we're doing here today. If you register by October 31st, the promo code SPOOKY is good for 20% off of the base fee for your first 3 months as a customer. So a really great time to get started if you are ready to move forward.